Hey, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, you're going to learn how to play a really cool blues lead that's played over a minor key progression. If you'd like to download the tablature for this lesson and get the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing along and work on your timing and all of that stuff, you can get that by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP249. Alright, so if you're not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and also make sure you click the alert bell so that you're alerted to new videos that I put out each week. I do a new lesson every Friday, so it's a great way for us to stay in touch. Alright, let's talk about the structure of this song. Now this song is in the key of A minor. It's a minor key blues, and that means that most of what we're going to be playing from a lead perspective is in the minor pentatonic scale. And so those of you that are familiar with that scale, big blues fans, this will be right at home for most of you. Let me talk about the structure, the chord structure, and then we'll get into the notes. Now, it starts off with a minor 1 chord. This is how I think of it. Think of the 1-4-5 chord progression, but instead of it being a major 1, it's a minor 1. So it's an A minor. Then we go to the 4 chord, which is a D7. Then we go back to the A minor, back to the D7, back to the A minor again. This time we go to the 5 chord, the E7, walked it down to the 4 chord, back to the D7, and then back to the A minor. So that's the structure we're going to be playing over. In the part 2 video, there's a whole other section that has a different chord arrangement, but we'll save that for part 2. So here's where we're going to start this thing. Actually, before I get into that, we're going to be playing in minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 for the key of A. That's where we're going to start. So if you're a premium member, you have access to the blues lead course where I go through all 5 patterns. So this will be in pattern 1. And we're going to start with our ring finger on the 5th fret, 4th string, and we're going to slide up to the 7th fret, 4th string. That's the first thing we do. Now, before we get into that, you need to know how to count this in. So when you're playing along with the jam track, you'll know when to come in. So you're going to come in on the and of 2. So it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and, just like that. 1 and 2 and. So that's the first note there. Now the next thing that's played sounds like that. Now I'm going to come up here to the 5th fret again, but I'm going to be on the 3rd string, and then 7th fret 3rd string, and then we're going to do a full bend and a release. So after I do the bend, I go ahead and release it and pick it again. So it's like this. And then I played 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 4th string, downstroke, upstroke, like this. That's a little conclusion. It's like a vocal trail, like if you were singing and your vocal starts to trail off. That's really what you're doing when you do that with your fingers. Now the second time through, we're going to start off the exact same way that we did the first time. So that's a slide from the 5th fret to the 7th fret on the 4th string. But then I'm going to play a double stop, or actually a series of double stops. That's where you play 2 strings at once to get a harmonized lead. So I'm going to bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret, but I'm only going to be playing strings 2 and 3, like this. Now I'm plucking. I'm using these 2 fingers with my right hand to pluck strings 2 and 3. You could pick that if you want. I think you get a little more precise sound when you pluck it, so that's why I do it. But so we're going to do that, and then we're going to bar the first 3 strings on the 7th fret. And then I'm going to play this. So that's a bend on the 7th fret, but we're bending both strings at the same time. And actually I'm pulling, I'm not pushing. Normally when I bend, I'm pushing this way. But this time, I'm pulling with that finger. Just that one ring finger has enough leverage to pull those 2 strings. And I got that technique from Chuck Berry. So if you learn nothing else in this entire lesson, walk away with that lick. That you can use that in anything you play. And always connect it back to a chord shape. So you can picture where that lives within the A chord. So when we're playing in the key of A, which we're doing, you can see how that relates back to that chord shape. Another thing I should have mentioned is we're not going to be changing scales necessarily. Well, in one place we are, but that'll be in the part 2 video. But everything we're going to be playing is going to be in the A minor pentatonic world. So we're not going to be changing scales to match chords. We're just going to be playing in the key of the song. All right, let's count it in. So we have 1 and 2. So that's how I concluded that second lick. Did 2 bends, then came down to the 5th fret, did another bend on the 7th fret, played the 7th fret without the bend, and then the 5th fret strings. All that was on strings 2 and 3. Now the next thing I played was another double stop, but now we're going to be on strings 1 and 2. So it goes like this. Really easy to play. It's just a slide from the 8th fret, strings 1 and 2, down to the 7th fret, and then the 5th fret. And again, I'm plucking with these 2 fingers. So we have. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it on strings 2 and 3. But I did a quick slide, so it's from the 8th fret down to the 7th fret, and then down to the 5th fret. So all together, that part goes. Now after that double stop, I walked right down with single strings to the note that would be in that E7 chord. So that'd be 7th fret, 4th string, down to the 5th fret, and then down to the 7th fret, 5th string. Alright, so let's back up from the beginning and play it up through that point. I'll play it slowly. We have 1 and 2 and. Alright, now after that, I played that lick, just walking right up that minor pentatonic scale. 7th fret, 5th string, 5th fret, 4th string, 7th fret, 4th string, 5th fret, 3rd string. And then I landed there on the 7th fret, 4th string. And then to conclude that, I'm going to use this Stevie Ray Vaughan style lick that goes. This is a great takeaway, another great takeaway, because you can connect this back to that chord shape in your mind, so you can play this in any key when you're wanting to improvise. It's easy to play as well. So we're going to bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret, and we're going to be using hybrid picking. So I'm going to be picking starting here on the 4th string, 7th fret. So remember, keep this bar down the whole time. The reason you're going to keep that bar down is because you're going to use your ring finger to be plucking the 1 string along with what you pick. So it sounds like this. So you can see that each time that 1 string rings out, the notes underneath it, the notes that I'm actually picking, sound like that. So I'm going up here and hitting this 8th fret 3rd string, which is the blue note. So when you talk about the blues scale, it's the minor pentatonic scale with the addition of that 1 note. And that's all I'm doing is I'm sliding it up. That's the 7th fret 4th string, up to the 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 3rd string, sliding up to that blue note, which would be the 8th fret 3rd string, and sliding back down. But then you're hitting that note along with it with your ring finger. Pretty cool technique. So that, everything that we just learned there, that's the first time through. So when you're listening to the jam track, that's the first loop that we just played through. Let me back up and play through all of that now, and then we'll move on to the second part. All right, so we have 1 and 2 and. Right? Pretty nice sounding little minor key blues lead there. Now the second time through, I came up here and played. And that's going into the pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale. So pattern 1 is here, pattern 2 is up here. And what I'm doing is I'm sliding from the 7th fret to the 9th fret, going to the bottom part of that pattern 2. And then I use my ring finger to come up here to the 10th fret 2nd string. And so I just go back and forth between strings 2 and 3. Now I find myself plucking that 2nd string just to give it more of a pop. It sounds more dramatic. Hear the difference between if I flat pick it versus I can snap it more, I guess, when I'm plucking it. It just depends on the sound you're going for, but keep that in mind. That's why hybrid picking is so cool. It gives you different tonal qualities as well as allowing you to play 2 strings at the same time. All right, so we have. So I hit that 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then I went. So that's walking from the second pattern back down to the first pattern. So that's the 8th fret 2nd string. There's the 9th fret 3rd string. We do a quick walk, quick slide rather, from the 9th fret to the 7th fret. And then down to the 5th fret. So let's back up. We have. And then I did a hammer on between the 5th fret and 7th fret. And then landed on the 5th fret 3rd string. Alright, so that's the first phrase. The second phrase goes like this. Really cool. That is playing 3 notes right out of the minor pentatonic scale pattern 2. You can see I'm just literally just tracing in my mind. I'm putting my fingers right in that pattern. And it's actually making a nice little minor chord there. But I'm sliding from the 7th fret to the 9th fret on the 3rd string. My ring finger goes back to the 10th fret 2nd string. And then my index finger, make sure you get your fingers right when you start it. Start with your middle finger. My index finger goes down now on the 8th fret 1st string. So we're playing that chord shape. And I got this sound from Robert Cray. He's like always using these minor chords like this and giving a lot of vibrato. It's always stuck in my head when I'm playing lead, trying to sound like him. Okay, then that's just the 7th fret strings 1 and 2 and the 5th fret strings 1 and 2. So it's a little walk down. And then I just played a single string, although I could have done that same little double stop that we did the first time, but just to give it a little variety and to give you a different option, I played just the 2nd string here on the 7th fret. Not a full bend, it's a half bend. So you're trying to hit that note. Alright, so let's back up and play through this second loop. We have. And then after that I went little conclusion, almost like another vocal trail. So that's walking right down pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic. So we're going to be 5th fret 2nd string, and then a bend and release on the 7th fret 3rd string, then the 5th fret 3rd string, and then the 7th fret 4th string. Alright, so that's the first 2 phrases. Now the third phrase is a lot of bending. It sounds like this. So it's one of those things when you got the jam track, it makes a little more sense. Although even with a jam track, you're going to have to be thinking about where you're going to land, not necessarily where you are. That's how I think about it. So you can bend as long as you want, but you just got to make sure you're landing in the right place. So we're going to be in pattern 2 again of the minor pentatonic scale, just walking right up, 9th fret 3rd string, 10th fret 2nd string, 8th fret 1st string, same little 3 notes. But then after that, I'm going to go to the 10th fret 1st string, and that's where I start the full bend. So a full bend is when you play 2 frets higher than where you start. So we're going to try and hit that 12th fret 1st string. That's the note we're trying to hit, which is an E note. And I bent, this is where it's hard to tab and say to do this exactly. You're just going to have to feel this out. Anybody that was playing this, any blues player would be playing it completely different every time they did it. But the point is, try and be dramatic with it. So don't just go right to the note. You could do that, I guess, but I think what I was going for was to try and get there in almost a painful way, like you're really singing and meaning it. You know, it sounds like you're struggling, and some of that maybe because you are. It depends on the gauge of strings you have on your guitar, I guess, and your setup. But anyway, that's what I'm going for, is that full bend. And then I release it and play the 10th fret 1st string. And then I come down to the 8th fret 1st string, do another bend, 8th fret, 10th fret bend, like this. Now you don't conclude that bend. This is an Albert King technique. And then you just play the closing phrase there, which is that. So that would be the 8th fret 1st string, 10th fret 2nd string, down, up with the right hand, downstroke, upstroke. So all together it goes. There's the release. And then that last note after that was the 8th fret, 1st string, and you push that a little bit sharp when you conclude it. Like that. So some of this is more art than science, and you may want to hold out that bend even longer and make it more dramatic. A lot of great blues players, to me, what makes a great blues guitar player is somebody that has full control over their bends like that. And you know, there's none better than Albert King. He was the master at that. Everybody tries to sound like Albert, and there's a reason for that. Alright, so let me back up and play through everything we've learned in this. I'll play through it one more time slowly without the jam track. And then hopefully you've learned a lot of nice licks from this. Now if you want to continue on to the second half, which has a whole other section, and get the tablature and the jam track and all that, make sure you check out Active Melody Premium membership if you're not one already. Alright, so let's back up from the very beginning. Remember, it comes in on the and of 2. 1 and 2 and...